My name is Margaret Sinclair, and I'm 45 years old. For 22 years, I believed I had a good marriage. Not perfect, whose is? But solid, built on mutual respect and shared dreams. My husband Daniel was a cardiologist at the most prestigious hospital in the city. I ran a successful interior design firm. We had what everyone called a beautiful life. The truth is always uglier than the facade. I discovered the affair the way most wives do, through a cascade of small, careless mistakes. A receipt for jewelry I never received. Dinner meetings that ran past midnight. The smell of unfamiliar perfume clinging to his shirts like a guilty secret. But the final confirmation came from the most unexpected source. My 19-year-old daughter, home from college for spring break. "Mom," she said one evening, her voice careful. "I saw Dad at Chez Laurent yesterday. He wasn't alone." I kept folding laundry, my hand steady. "Oh, who was he with?" "A woman. Young. Maybe late 20s. She paused. They were holding hands. I smoothed out a pillowcase with deliberate care. "I see. Mom, aren't you angry?" I looked up at her. "Sweetheart, anger is a luxury I can't afford right now. Now, tell me everything you saw." That night, while Daniel was at another emergency surgery, I hired a private investigator. Not because I needed proof, my daughter's word was enough, but because I needed information. In any battle, intelligence is your greatest weapon. Within a week, I knew everything. Her name was Amber Fitzgerald, 28 years old, a pharmaceutical sales rep who worked the cardiology department. She'd been seeing my husband for 8 months. They met every Tuesday and Thursday at a condo Daniel had rented downtown. Paid for, the investigator noted, with money siphoned from our joint investment account. I sat with this information for 3 days, planning my next move like a chess grandmaster. Then Amber did something I hadn't expected. She called me. "Mrs. Sinclair?" Her voice was breathy, nervous. "This is Amber Fitzgerald. I work with your husband. I was wondering if we could meet for coffee." I paused, letting her sweat. "Of course, dear. How about tomorrow? The Bluebird Cafe on 5th. That would be perfect. Thank you so much for agreeing to this." "Oh, sweet girl. You have no idea what you just walked into." I arrived at the cafe 15 minutes early, choosing a corner table with a clear view of the entrance. I wore my best Chanel suit, the navy one that Daniel had bought me for our 20th anniversary. My hair was perfectly styled, my makeup flawless. If you're going to face your husband's mistress, you do it looking like the queen you are. Amber walked in 5 minutes late, scanning the room nervously. She was pretty in that obvious way. Long blonde hair, legs for days, dressed in a tight dress more suitable for a nightclub than a morning coffee. She spotted me and waved tentatively. "Mrs. Sinclair, thank you so much for meeting me." I stood, smiled warmly, and extended my hand. "Please call me Margaret. And you must be Amber." She took my hand, her palm sweaty. "Yes. This is awkward." "Not at all," I said, settling back into my chair. "Would you like some coffee? The lavender latte here is exceptional." We ordered, her hands shaking as she lifted the menu. When our drinks arrived, she finally found her courage. "I wanted to talk to you about Daniel," she began. "My husband?" I asked innocently, stirring honey into my tea. "Yes. We've been seeing each other." I let that hang in the air for a moment, watching her squirm. Then I leaned forward, my expression sympathetic. "Oh, my dear. I know." Her eyes widened. "You do?" "Of course. Daniel and I have an understanding. We've been married for over 2 decades. These things happen." Relief flooded her face. "Oh, thank God. I was so worried about hurting you. Daniel said you might be upset." "Daniel worries too much," I said, patting her hand. "Tell me about yourself, Amber. You work in pharmaceutical sales." She launched into her life story. Ambitious girl from a small town, worked her way through college, landed this amazing job at MedTech Industries. She'd been there 2 years, was up for a promotion to regional manager. "That's wonderful," I said. "You must love working at MedTech. Such a supportive company culture." "Oh yes. My boss is amazing. Patricia Nguyen, do you know her?" I hid my smile behind my teacup. The name sounds familiar. Patricia Nguyen. Previously Patricia Chun, my college roommate, maid of honor at my wedding, godmother to my daughter. Currently executive vice president of sales at MedTech Industries. "Anyway," Amber continued, oblivious, "I just wanted to make sure there were no hard feelings. Daniel means everything to me." "I can see that," I said. "Tell me, what are your intentions with my husband?" She blushed prettily. We're in love. He's going to, she stopped herself. Going to what, dear? Nothing. Just we have plans. How wonderful. I glanced at my watch. Oh, I hate to cut this short, but I have a meeting. Thank you for being so honest with me, Amber. I stood, and she jumped up, grabbing my hand. Thank you for being so understanding. You're nothing like Daniel described. Oh, I raised an eyebrow. How did he describe me? She flushed. Just, older. Bitter. Stuck in the past. Ah, I smiled again. Well, people see what they want to see, don't they? I left her there, sipping her overpriced coffee, completely unaware that she'd just signed her own professional death warrant. From my car, I made 3 phone calls. First, to James Morrison, the best divorce attorney in the state. We'd been expecting this call for a week. Margaret, I take it the meeting went as planned. Perfectly. File the papers. And James? Make sure they're served at the hospital. During the cardiology department meeting if possible. With pleasure. Second, to my accountant. Lock everything down. Investment accounts, property holdings, business accounts. Not a penny moves without my signature. Already done, Mrs. Sinclair. He tried to access the vacation fund this morning. Request denied. My third call was to Patricia. Maggie. Her voice was warm. It's been too long. How's my goddaughter? Thriving at Yale, thanks to your recommendation letter. I paused. Patty, I need to talk to you about one of your employees. Amber Fitzgerald. Amber? Her tone sharpened. What about her? She's sleeping with Daniel. Silence. Then, that son of a... She just met me for coffee to make sure I was understanding about their affair. Oh, Maggie. I'm so sorry. Don't be sorry. Be helpful. I'm not asking you to fire her. That would be unethical. But I thought you should know she's been using company time for personal matters. Those Tuesday and Thursday client meetings? They're at Daniel's secret condo. Is that so? Patricia's voice was ice. Well, I'll have to look into her expense reports more carefully. And that promotion she's up for? I think we need someone more, dedicated to the job. After we hung up, I drove home to the house I'd spent 15 years making perfect. Daniel was in his study on the phone. He ended the call when he saw me. Where were you? He asked, not looking up from his laptop. Having coffee with your girlfriend. His head snapped up. What? Amber. Lovely girl. A bit young for you, don't you think? He stood slowly. Margaret, I can explain. No need. I set my purse down carefully. She explained everything. You're in love. You have plans. It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think. I walked to the window, looking out at the garden I'd cultivated with my own hands. Do you remember what you said in your wedding vows, Daniel? He was silent. You promised to cherish me, to honor me, to build a life with me. I turned to face him. You've broken every one of those promises. Margaret, please. We can work this out. Think of our reputation. I am thinking of my reputation. That's why you'll be served divorce papers tomorrow at the hospital. Very publicly. Your colleagues will finally understand why you've been so distracted lately. His face went white. You wouldn't. I would. I have. Oh, and Daniel? You might want to check your bank accounts. Seems there's been some suspicious activity. All those withdrawals for your love nest? They've been reported to the hospital board. Something about misuse of funds. That's my money. Our money. Which you spent on your mistress. The board might find that interesting. Especially since you're up for chief of cardiology. He sank into his chair. You've ruined me. No, darling. You ruined yourself. I'm just making sure everyone knows it. I left him there and went upstairs to pack. Not my things, his. By the time he thought to follow, I'd already changed the locks. The next day was a symphony of perfect timing. Daniel was served papers in front of the entire cardiology department. Within hours, the hospital gossip mill was in overdrive. By afternoon, he'd been called before the board to explain certain financial irregularities. Amber's Tuesday went differently than planned too. Instead of meeting Daniel at their condo, she was called into Patricia's office for a performance review. Her expense account was audited. Her client meetings were scrutinized. Her promotion evaporated like morning mist. She called me that evening, sobbing. You said you understood. You said you were okay with it. I said love is complicated, I corrected. I never said I was okay with it. You're a monster. No, dear. I'm a woman who knows her worth. There's a difference. She hung up on me. A week later, I heard she'd been transferred to the Des Moines office. Apparently, there was an urgent need for her skills in Iowa. Daniel tried everything: flowers, jewelry, tearful apologies, even therapy. But some things, once broken, can't be repaired. The divorce was finalized 6 months later. I kept the house, the business, and most of our assets. He kept his precious reputation, barely, and a monthly alimony payment that would remind him of his choices for years to come. But here's the thing about revenge. It's not really about hurting them. It's about reclaiming yourself. For months, I'd been the fool, the clueless wife, the woman too stupid to see what was happening under her nose. Amber and Daniel thought they were so clever, sneaking around, making plans for a future built on my ruins. They forgot one crucial thing. I didn't become successful by being nice. I became successful by being smart, strategic, and when necessary, ruthless. A year later, I ran into Amber at a conference in Chicago. She was working a booth for a small pharmaceutical company, her dreams of regional management long dead. She saw me coming and tried to disappear into the crowd, but I caught up with her. "Amber," I called out cheerfully. "How lovely to see you." She turned, trapped. "Mrs. Sinclair." "It's Ms. Sinclair now," I corrected. "How's Des Moines?" "Cold," she said bitterly. "And Daniel? Do you two still keep in touch?" Her face crumpled. "He said he loved me. He said he was going to marry me." "Men say a lot of things," I observed. "The trick is knowing when they're lying." "How do you do it?" she asked suddenly. "How do you just move on?" I looked at this girl, and she was a girl, really, despite her efforts to seem worldly, and felt something almost like pity. "I didn't move on," I said. "I moved up. There's a difference." I left her there among the pharmaceutical displays and cheap conference swag. She'd learned her lesson the hard way. Sometimes that's the only way that sticks. These days, my life is mine again. I travel when I want, work on projects that inspire me, spend time with my daughter without having to explain another emergency surgery. I've even started dating a distinguished professor who brings me flowers and means it when he says I'm beautiful. Daniel? Last I heard, he was living in a one-bedroom apartment, dating another pharmaceutical rep. This one's 25. Some people never learn. But I did. I learned that understanding doesn't mean accepting. That forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. And that sometimes the best revenge isn't served cold. Sometimes it's served with a warm smile and a perfect cup of lavender latte, while you watch everything they built on lies come crashing down around them. They say revenge is sweet. They're wrong. Victory is sweet. Revenge is just the coffee you sip while you watch karma do its work.